Hey everyone, it's Michael GoosebumpsFan. Today I'm going to be talking about another Goosebumps book for you, doing another review. This is Goosebumps SlappyWorld, book number 7, It's Alive by R.L. Stine. I gotta tell you, this is a really good one. A really good one. It has some characteristics of a previous book that I reviewed here on the channel from a previous series, the Most Wanted series, which I believe was directly in front of this, I think it was Hall of Horrors, and then Most Wanted, and then this, SlappyWorld, I believe. I think so. But there was a Most Wanted book called Frankenstein's Dog that I loved. I absolutely loved it. I think it's one of the best Goosebumps books out there. I reviewed the crap out of it. It's because I'm a big fan of Frankenstein. For anybody who doesn't know, if you happen to be a younger viewer, It's Alive is literally what Frankenstein, not the monster, but the Dr. Frankenstein from the original 1931 James Whale directed film said. The Boris Karloff Frankenstein film. When the monster is struck by lightning and it's coming to life, he screams, "It's alive, it's alive." I don't know if it's in the Mary Shelley novel, but it's for sure in that film. And so this is almost... What worried me about going into this is that it would be a straight-up rehash of Frankenstein's Dog, and it wasn't. I was very surprised by that. It has very big similarities to that, and we'll get into that in a moment. But this was really good, and I loved it a lot. I really loved this. I thought it was so much fun. It was very different from a lot of the SlappyWorld books. A lot of the SlappyWorld books have been kind of your typical concepts for Goosebumps. I mean, it's been focused a lot about Slappy. There's been, I think up to this point, by the time you get to book 7, there's been about 3 or 4 Slappy books, and then about 3 or 4 other things. And they haven't all been great. One of the biggest common factors that me and some other YouTubers have talked about, like Spongy, who comments in a lot of my videos, we had all talked about how the endings of the SlappyWorld books, up to this point, since I'm reading them in order, again, I don't know what happens beyond this, but up to book 7, the endings have all been either awful, like just sucky, terrible crap that comes out of nowhere, or it's been unsatisfying, like just anticlimactic, you know? And I can take anticlimactic when the rest of the book's good, like the previous book, The Ghost of Slappy. Really loved a lot of that book. Thought it was really great for the most part. Then the ending was kind of whatever. It's Alive, in my opinion, reading these in order, as of the current moment, has the best ending, the most satisfying ending, one of the most satisfying stories that I've read in a long time from Goosebumps. I would put it on par, maybe even possibly just a little bit underneath Frankenstein's Dog from the Most Wanted series, which I adored. I loved it so much. I cannot wait to reread that sometime this year. God willing, if I'm alive. It's Alive. What is this about? There's basically a main girl who has a friend nicknamed Gates. I think it's his nickname. I don't think it's his main name. Anyway, the main character's name, I have to look at this, because I've read so many Goosebumps books, all the characters read the same. It's hard to get attached to them to the point where you know their names super well. Livy. And Livy has a big interest, as well as her friend has a giant interest, in robotics at their school's robotics team, and they want to build their own robot. They build a very human-like android AI, artificial intelligence type robot that can walk around and talk and make its own choices, and it kind of becomes a dangerous thing. We'll get into that in a moment because I have some personal fears about this kind of thing. And Livy's parents, her mom and her dad, are scientists who love to build robots. They got her into this whole robotic phase where she loves this stuff. And so she gets her interest from them. They kind of help her work on this stuff. But she and her best friend pretty much are the people who developed this cool-looking robot that they actually call Francine. And Francine is doing some weird stuff here lately. She's not just, you know, talking. She's not just doing whatever they tell her to do, you know, programming her and her brain to do. She's not just doing those things. She's starting to come up with ideas on how to do things. She's showing up in the hallway outside of Livy's bedroom door in the middle of the night, which, again, personal fear of mine, full disclosure, our AI, Skynet and all that, scares the crap out of me. I'm not okay with that kind of stuff. I'm not a fan of Alexa. I'm not a fan of any of that stuff, man. It scares me to death. And I don't like it. And I'm terrified of it. But anyway, that's a personal fear that I feel. It's one of those things about the Frankenstein's Dog book that got to me so much. There are certain Goosebumps books that focus on this topic a little bit, and they get to me a lot more than most people. And this is a great example of a book from Goosebumps, whether it be a newer book or an older book for that matter, that really got to me and really got under my skin. And the idea of opening up your bedroom door in the middle of the night, you didn't hear anything, you were just going to get some water, and you see a robot, maybe whether you created it or not, and you see it out in the hallway looking at you. Just standing there, watching you. Spooky stuff, man. I don't like that. It's creepy to me. It just gets under my skin. It bothers me. So, as the story progresses, they're trying to figure out what's going on with this robot. Why is Francine doing what she's doing? I'm not going to spoil anything for you because I do spoiler-free reviews. And it was a fantastic book. I had a blast reading it. I think the ending is one of the most fantastically shocking endings, like almost a double, triple twist ending, like a really weird, crazy, hectic ending that really kind of blew my mind. This book has a lot in common with a particular book that I loved from the old classic series that I don't want to ruin for you. I don't want to let you know what it was because I don't want to spoil it. Because if I tell you, then you'll know immediately what happened by the ending of the book. So if you read it, you'll probably know immediately what I'm talking about, and you can probably put it down in the comment section and we'll discuss that. This book takes some of the best elements of some of the best Goosebumps stories I've read, like Frankenstein's Dog, that classic book I just mentioned that I didn't use the title of, and really blends it into a really creepy story that I enjoyed immensely. And I thought it was very fun and very, very creepy. And I don't have much more to say about it. I recommend It's Alive heavily. I don't know for sure. This might not be the scariest. It's personally really scary. Honestly, really, really scary. Again, I like Frankenstein's Dog more, but on a personal level, when it comes to the SlappyWorld series, I'm going to eventually, God willing, do a ranking series. When this series wraps up and it's done, I'm going to do a ranking series at some point. I still cannot figure out, as much as I loved Ghost of Slappy, I don't know if I think that's better than this. I don't know for sure. I mean, as much as this whole series is focused around Slappy and tales that he tells, I don't know if I think this is better than that. It's possible. I'm really stuck on this. I'm really trying to figure it out. I've been struggling for a couple of days now. Well, I guess I started reading it yesterday, and then I've been talking about it today a whole lot. But regardless, I've been stuck on this idea trying to figure out what I think about this, how I feel about this book. What do I really think? Because it's great. It's freaking fantastic. And again, unlike Ghost of Slappy, has an amazing ending in my opinion. I know that Spongy wasn't a big fan down in the comments, but I loved it. I thought it was really fun and really eerie, and it made me feel like a lot of old classic Goosebumps, even though it's more of a science fiction type book. It has some really cool stuff in here. I liked it a lot. And in my head, I picture the monster, the android thing, Francine, you know, her name. In my head, I picture her being very much like that old silent film from way back in the day. What was it called? It's a horror sci-fi science fiction film, and it's like Metropolis. It reminds me of the robot from Metropolis, and I guess that's deliberate because of the cover of the book. I'm not really sure, but the way she's described, and the way she acts, and especially the way she laughs, is just really creepy. I love it so much. It was fantastic. One of the creepiest Goosebumps books I've read in a long time. Again, it does kind of feel in some instances like a little bit of a ripoff of Frankenstein's Dog, even though Frankenstein's Dog is very, very, very focused on the Mary Shelley book and very focused on the old black and white horror films from the 1930s that I love with Boris Karloff. It has a lot of focus on those things in that particular book. This one, not so much. It just has little similarities to the Mary Shelley story, the Frankenstein Boris Karloff stuff, and Frankenstein's Dog in this case. So if you didn't love Frankenstein's Dog, there's a good chance you might love It's Alive, It's Alive. If you love this, there's a good chance you might love that one, and vice versa. I don't really know what to tell you. If you felt underwhelmed by this, you might love Frankenstein's Dog. There's so many different options we could change around here. I think both are incredible. I think both are fantastic. This was so good, and it has some really just horrific imagery in it that bothers me even now, like a day later after reading it last night and finishing it. Anyway, if I had to rate SlappyWorld, number 7, It's Alive, It's Alive, on a 5-star basis, I'd probably give this about a 5 out of 5. I loved it. I think it is, again, it's genuinely perfect. I mean, I don't see anything about it I would change, frankly. Maybe I'm forgetting things, but I wouldn't change anything. Another thing, too, to talk about, the SlappyWorld thing, if anybody doesn't know about this, if this happens to be your first video ever talking about the SlappyWorld series, Slappy, the ventriloquist dummy, tells these tales for the most part. He doesn't narrate the actual story, he just kind of has interruptions where he'll pop in at like the beginning, the middle, and the end of the book, and if you do a transition to a new day, he does that too, where he'll kind of make some jokes at you and kind of reference what happens in the story, and that's really it. It's kind of a waste. I really don't like it, even though it's part of what makes the SlappyWorld series kind of unique, but it's not super unique like the Give Yourself Goosebumps books or anything. And in here, I kind of think it was like the worst of the SlappyWorld. Introduction, interruptions, whatever you want to call it. It just kind of busted in there. Some of the jokes didn't even make any sense. Like, there was one in particular, I kind of sat there and just cringed. I was like, that doesn't even... I don't even know what you meant by that, Slappy. Like, was that a sexual assault you just said to me? What are you talking about? Really weird stuff, man, but it's fine for the most part. Again, it just kind of interrupts the story, in my opinion, with how good this book is. Anyway, what are your thoughts on It's Alive, It's Alive? Put your thoughts in comments down below, guys. I would love to hear what you have to say about this book. Thank you for watching. May the Lord Jesus Christ bless you guys today, and goodbye.